The landing page is just the other part of the story. The ad is the first part, and so on. It's not a separate thing from each other. And you need to treat this landing page creation process as an ongoing thing. You can't expect that you create one page once a year and then send all of the ads to that page and hope that they're all going to convert the same and bring you huge ROI. It just doesn't happen.
Looking like a baddie, I show up and make them stop. Wanna know my name so badly, cause I run this whole block. Flip my hair, move my head, show the world I'm royalty. When I walk by, they be taking bows, cause they know I'm the queen, yeah.
Have you ever had this experience where you're walking through a mall and you're looking at all the shops and their window displays, and you finally find one that has the most amazing clothes ever that you really like and you want to buy? And you decide to go into the store and you ask the salesperson, "Hey, I saw these cool clothes on your window display. Can I buy them?" And then the salesperson looks at you and says, "Well, no, we don't actually sell those clothes. They're just out there to lure you into the store." No? Haven't had this experience before? Well, of course not, because that would be absolutely insane. So, why is it that we do this online all of the time? I was scrolling through my Instagram feed the other day, as one does, and ad after an ad, the same thing happened to me. And I wanted to add a couple of random examples here just to show you what I mean. So the first one is this pretty cool looking phone case. I actually quite liked it. And what do you think will happen if you click shop now on this ad? I, for one, as an interested customer, would expect to see more details about this product, maybe some information about the price, an opportunity to check out, so on and so on. But take a guess what will actually happen. So we click shop now, and we land on a category page that has lots and lots of different similar products to the one we saw in the ad, but not the same one that I was shown. And I don't know if the expectation here is that the customer is supposed to go through the entire site of, I don't know how many products they have, to find the one they were marketed to, but I'm going to tell you right now that this is not going to happen. The chances of an actual customer going on this wild goose chase is 0 to none, because it's just not setting the right type of expectation. And I have another example too. This one is even better. It's an ad for this porcelain cabinet. Looks pretty cool. Again, you have 2 seconds to guess what will actually happen when you click shop now. Let's see here. Clicking shop now. You can't even access the site without giving them your personal information. I tried for a long time, and there's literally no way to close this pop up. You can't get past it without giving them your email to even see the product that they are trying to sell you. So, again, I don't think that any potential customer is going to be very pleased about this particular experience. So, this is actually an interesting phenomenon that I see in my line of work all of the time. And it's where these companies spend a ton of money on ad campaigns, and I mean a ton. And then it becomes this cycle where a new ad campaign is created. They run it for a while. Then comes the time to analyze it, and they see that the ad campaign is not actually converting as well as it should have. So the conclusion is that we should just try again with another ad campaign or change something about the ads. And the cycle just continues and continues. And meanwhile, your poor landing page is somewhere completely forgotten, smiling through the pain, and nobody's making the connection to see what is happening between the ads and where people are actually landing. And usually, this cycle here is repeated however many times until someone decides that, okay, it's time to bring in CRO specialist, UX specialist, somebody to look at the landing pages. And what do we see when we start looking into the whole holistic experience in this case? And it usually comes down to either one or couple of these reasons. But the first one is what we saw in those examples as well, where all ad campaigns are just sent to an existing either home product, or I think the worst case is the category page, where you don't even see information about that same product that you saw in the ads. The other scenario is where a company actually has a generic landing page that they usually created a long time ago, and then they will send all of their ads to that page without still thinking about what the connection between that page and the ad actually is. So the overarching problem between these first 2 points is pretty much the same. There just isn't enough of a connection, and the message is broken. And then there's a third reason as well that I actually am going to come back to a bit later when I start talking about how to do research for your landing pages. So bear with me, but it has something to do with the intent level of your traffic. And it's usually that people don't realize that the intent level of social media ad traffic is so far from, let's say, organic traffic. And then the action that you're trying to get them to take on your landing page just doesn't match that intent level. So if you imagine somebody who saw your ad for the first time somewhere on social media and they've never heard of you before, it's a completely different scenario from when somebody goes on Google to search for a solution for a specific problem they're having that your product might solve for them. So you have to think about that as well. But I'll come back to this.
This is Romo Santiago from Experiment Nation. Every week we share interviews with and conference sessions by our favorite conversion rate optimizers from around the world. So if you like this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing. It helps us a bunch. Now back to the episode.
And to sort of put all of this into more context, I want to tell you a little story about this project that me and my team were working on a while back. And the story is up on our website as well. There's a link over here. You can go read all about it. But basically, we were working with this company that sells muscle recovery tools for athletes. And they look something like this on this picture. They're these little scraping tools that you use after a very serious workout to rebuild the muscle and recover faster and basically do gua sha massage on yourself. And these tools are also very popular with physiotherapists. And a cool thing that this company has going for them is that they partner with a lot of pretty famous athletes that constantly use these products, endorse them, and help them create a lot of content around it. So we started this project as we do usually with just general CRO research. And the first thing we saw was that the main hesitation their customers had was around price versus value. And this is not uncommon for products that have something to do with health and so on. But one of the other reasons why the customers had this concern was that there's actually a lot of competitors that sell these types of products at a much lower price and at a worse quality. So people had used similar products before and they had either broke or didn't work or so on. So they were obviously wondering, why is this one more expensive? Why is it better? So we ended up surveying a bunch of the new or recent purchasers as well to see how they overcame those hesitations. And the first thing they mentioned was that this company is so credible because they have the backup of these athletes that the customers had already been familiar with, had already been fans of for a long time. So seeing that your favorite athlete endorses this company and this product is obviously going to give you this confidence in this product. So we were like, okay, that's pretty cool. But we saw that the landing page, again, same problem. Campaigns aren't really converting as well as they should. And we started looking into it more and more. First thing that you do, obviously, you look at the ads. And the ads were set up in a way where the athletes were talking in a video about those products, their favorite products, how they use them, so on. And then when you clicked on the ad, you were taking on a landing page that had no mention of those athletes, no mention of that same product that was in the video. It just had a generic offer of a couple of different products. So, obviously, a huge mismatch in messaging right there. So, what did we do? We formed a hypo that if we could create a template for these landing pages that would accommodate each of those ads, because I think they had four different ones at the same time. Each one was featuring a specific athlete and their favorite tool. So our goal was to create a landing page template that would work with each of those ads, but we could just pull the separate content in there. And we were lucky because they already had a huge library of pre recorded interviews and content with these athletes. So we basically scanned through hours of video, pulling visuals, pulling quotes, crafting the copy for those specific landing pages. And we built it in a way that after you land from that ad on the page, the first thing you would see there is the athlete's face and a direct quote from them. And as you scroll down, there's more information about how they use that specific product. And then even below that, there's the opportunity to buy the product. So we're not pushing this salesy type of attitude. We're like showing them actually the things we know they're interested in, which is how the athlete uses their favorite product, right? And again, you can go on our site to read more about the technical execution of this as well, because we did test it and it was a bit difficult to run that test, but all the details are in the case study. So go read about that there. But basically, after running the experiment for 5 weeks, we were able to see a 33% lift in add to carts and an 8% lift in conversion rate. So, not a bad result by taking this more personalized approach. But obviously, as I mentioned, we were lucky because we had this huge library of content to work with to sort of put together the materials for a high converting landing page. But let's say you don't have that. You don't have influencers, I don't know, endorsing your product and tons of content to work with and so on. Where do you start? What type of research should you do? The first thing I would recommend is Microsoft Clarity. And if you're not already taking advantage of this tool, you're missing out because, to my knowledge, this is the only tool right now that is completely free and offers you heat maps, scroll maps, and session recordings. It's also incredibly easy to install. It works pretty well. You can compare different pages with heat maps for different time frames, whatever you want. And one of the more interesting things about this tool is that the session insights are actually automatically generated into like a text form here as well. So you'll get insights that are already written out, that, oh, this customer went to this page, they took this action. So it becomes much easier to analyze your session recordings, because session recordings is one of those research methods that often gets overlooked, I think, because it's so time consuming to actually go through them and watch again hours of videos and then draw any type of conclusions, take notes, and so on. And obviously, these insights aren't perfect because they're still AI. They sometimes look a little bit silly, but I think it cuts down your analysis time considerably. So take advantage of this tool. The other thing you can always do is exit intent polls or surveys on the site. So, how we usually like to do it is with one open ended question, as in here, where if they're about to abandon the site, we just trigger a task like, hey, where are you going? What's stopping you from performing this action, buying something, whatever? And that's usually a pretty good way to gather insights quickly if you have the traffic on the site. The thing that I would recommend not doing is firstly NPS scores. And I know there are people that really like them, but I just think that they're a huge waste of time and resource. Because let's say you ask your visitors, hey, how did you like our landing page today? Please rate it one out of between 1 and 5. And then you get 20 people who say, oh, it was a 3 out of 5. And then 10 people say it was a 4 out of 5. And then, I don't know, 2 people say it was a 5. What will you actually do with this information? The answer is nothing. It's not actionable information. I don't know, maybe it's a good ego stroke when somebody says that your landing page was a 5 out of 5, but like you won't actually do anything with this information. So just stop. Don't do that. The other thing that we see people doing very often in research is they do an open ended survey like this one here, but they ask the solution from their customers. And that's just silly because you can't treat your customers as the UX expert or analyst. They're not the expert, they're your customer. You should ask them about their experience, and then it's your job to figure out what the solution to those problems is. So be mindful of that. Don't ask these questions that are not actually actionable for your team. Think through what type of information can you act on, can you make the best changes with. So this brings me back to that intent level topic that I sort of alluded to in the beginning. And I know that this is a screenshot from the old analytics. Please, again, bear with me. I just had this available. And the point is that very often when we start looking into traffic sources in terms of landing pages, we see that those same companies that spend a ton of money for social media ad campaigns actually have a really high conversion rate in terms of organic traffic. And then usually we see that that comes from a blog or some articles that they have on the site that are sort of just treated as an afterthought. And this is, again, a huge missed opportunity because there's lots you can do with that. You can actually analyze those high converting articles that bring in the organic traffic and see very clearly what type of information your customers are looking for. And often, what happens when these articles and blogs are overlooked is that people come there, read the article, and then bounce, right? Because they're not often even aware that your company sells the solution, because people don't like to be salesy and annoying in their blogs. They just treat it as educational content, which is good, but there are ways that you can just let the customer know that, hey, we actually sell the solution to this problem that you were reading about. So take advantage of that opportunity too. And the other thing you can do is just use that information that they're already reading and maybe incorporate something from there to your landing pages. This way, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, do a lot of expensive research when you can already see what your customers are consuming on your site. You can use that same information to encourage them and educate them on your landing page as well. So don't overlook this one. So, why is landing page creation such a mess? And this too, in my experience, comes down to either one or both of these reasons. The first one is that there just isn't a good enough infrastructure around creating landing pages quickly. And the key word here is quickly, because I think that most companies have pretty good processes in place for creating ad campaigns fairly quickly. And then when you look at the usual web development process, what does that entail? It has ideation, wireframing, then you need to figure out copy and design, then you need to develop it. If it has new features on it, development can take up a lot of resource. Then you need to QA it, then you ideally would want to test it and then launch it. This is a huge undertaking. And this is the bottleneck as well, because most companies treat their landing page creation process as a regular web development process, but it should be a separate thing, because otherwise, the landing pages obviously can't keep up with the speed of ads going out. And this is why companies find it easier to just send all of their social media or whatever ad campaign traffic to an existing site like a category page that has nothing really to do with the individual ad itself. And then the other side of it is that very often we see teams, especially ads and what happens in web, whoever those people are, CRO, web growth, UX, whatever you want to call them, they tend to work in silos and treat those two parts as completely independent from each other. And this problem gets worse and worse the bigger your company is, obviously, because it just becomes this huge mechanism where everyone is so focused on their individual piece of the puzzle that there isn't really anyone who can take a step back and evaluate how this whole thing is working together. Does it make sense? Is there continuation of the story? All of this brings me back to the title of my talk today, which is your landing page should be the conclusion of your ad story. And I find that it becomes easier to go about optimizing these processes and thinking about it when you do treat it as a story. The landing page is just the other part of the story. The ad is the first part, and so on. It's not a separate thing from each other. And you need to treat this landing page creation process as an ongoing thing. You can't expect that you create one page once a year and then send all of the ads to that page and hope that they're all going to convert the same and bring you huge ROI. It just doesn't happen. It all needs to work together. And ideally you would have a new landing page every time you launch a new campaign. And obviously there are times when it doesn't make sense when you're a huge e-com and you have hundreds of products, but at least make sure that when people click through from that ad, they're not landing on a completely irrelevant page that doesn't even show them the product that they were expecting to see. And this will take time to figure out, obviously, and it will be a huge undertaking. But if you get that process in place and you separate your landing page creation process from your regular web development, you set up a landing page builder that your team is comfortable using. You can create things quickly without heavy resources like development and so on. This way, your pages will actually keep up with your ad campaigns and you have a higher chance of making better ROI. And there are tons of landing page builders out there. It takes time to evaluate them, obviously, and pick the one that will work for you and your team. But it is worth the investment of setting up that process so you can be faster in the future. And just making sure that your entire marketing team is aware of what's happening as a holistic experience, that it's not separated into these little pieces where the story gets broken, the conclusion is missing from the ads, and nobody really takes responsibility because they were all just too focused on their own individual part. So if you're still with me, I salute you and thank you for listening. And I really hope that you find some inspiration or a new way of looking at your whole landing page creation process. And my name is Gerda. My company is called Qualitative. You can find me in all of these places. Send me an email or a message if you want to discuss anything about landing pages or CRO. And I hope that you'll have a good time listening to all the other talks of Experiment Nation Conference 2023. And again, just thanks for being here and good luck with your landing pages. Bye.
This is Romo Santiago from Experiment Nation. Every week we share interviews with and conference sessions by our favorite conversion rate optimizers from around the world. So if you like this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing.